date or alert. One and the same, but here we go. Set date, we have a standard height for all of these sheets, so that we have the ability to slide and change the content within without changing the height of the sheet. So these have all been designed to be exactly the same height. This first screen is basically a navigation and a display. So in this state, the clear all, there's no content in here, it's all none. So there's no date selected, no time selected, no repeat sequence selected. These are navigational, these are list items with navigation. Once they are set, they would then have the content filled into the right instead of none, and the clear all would become active to be able to clear all these out without going into each individual one. So if I want to set the date, I click on the date list item, the one in purple right there. You got 3 list items here. I would navigate to, the contents of the sheet would do a navigation, so it's a slide. So this content would slide to the left with this content sliding in. So it's pushing this content out of the way and pushing this in. At this point, I'm in the day. The clear, there isn't one selected, so the clear is not active. As soon as I would have a date selected, which would be shown the same way I have down here with the blue box. The blue box indicates my selection. A selection can be a single date or it could be multiple dates. So I believe there's an NPM project that I've referenced in the past that does this very well, and I would suggest that we kind of piggyback on what that one, the capabilities of that one. It's a pretty prominent one. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head, but I'm sure you won't have any problem finding it. The month up here, that information changes based on what is being displayed. We have a side scroll here of the different months. So there's a peak of the next month where I can like slide to the side, a tap and slide would move me to the different months. The month up here moves with the content. So I can go to the different months. But then also if I hit in this green area, I can go to modify the year basically. If I tap in this area, I'll go to the point where I can select a different year to quickly navigate to that year. And you would get the exact same month that I'm on right now and that year. So if I were to select 2030 when I'm in, let's say July 2022, I would go to July 2030 if I clicked on 2030. And one thing to note is the boxes here, the hit areas, are all 48 by 48 at a minimum. So it's a good tap area for that and should work out fine. As soon as I'm done making my selection, I can make one selection and it'll be that selection. I can tap on another area. I would select that other date. So I can tap and do lots of different things until I click done. It will then navigate back. It will take the content that I've selected here and navigate back and enter that into my day information here. Here I'm showing the year. This would also be a slide. If I click here, it pushes the content again to the left. So it's like you're drilling into this content from left to right. I can either choose to make another selection, and each of these, here's one area that I have shown that is the hit area. At a minimum, it's going to be 48 by 48, but I believe it's wider than 48. So that is the hit areas for each one of these. And the back, I changed the color of the back because it was different than the done. So you're just navigating back to the child level of the set date. So it's an outline, and if you hit back, nothing will be applied. But as soon as so the action I have in here, if I were to select 2030 in this case, I tap on 2030, I see the blue box go around it for like a quarter of a second, and then it navigates. it pushes that content back, and it refreshes this. So what we're doing is we're giving visual confirmation of the activity happening, and then doing a navigation a quarter of a second later. So I don't have to have a done in here. That is my intent. I'm intending to do that. If I made a mistake, I hit the month again, and I come back here and I do the same thing over again. So the selected date or the selected year is always going to be in blue. And so there will always be something that is selected here. There is no clear. There is always a selected day, or year, sorry. Please read the content. I spent a lot of time writing this to ensure that you had full documentation. Time. So if I set the date to a specific date. Within that date, I have the time that I can set that for. So what hour of the day is it? Is it 1:10 p.m.? So we only have 1 through 12 because we have AM and PM, and the clock only goes to 12, unless you're military time. But in this situation, we only have AM and PM and 5-minute increments. Same thing applies here. We have defaults that we have in place. So defaulted to PM being on, defaulted to even on the hour being on, but I can choose to select AM, and PM will unselect. If I select 25 here, the 00 will deselect, and now I have a blue box around this. In these cases, you do not navigate. You have to hit the done button to confirm your action. So I wanted to make this as easy as possible, so the person would only need to hit one number or two numbers. For probably the most common is on the hour, and the other most common would be a PM time, I would believe, to make your choices. So within 2 clicks, I believe over probably 70% of the people will only need to tap twice to make this happen. So as soon as I make a selection here, if I were to select 1, this content up here will update the same way this content up here updates. The same way it updates over here as well. So as soon as I hit 1 p.m. shows in here. That's just a confirmation of what I've got selected. Easy to read format. If I hit done, I go back, and that information gets populated in the field on the right hand side. So there is another option where we have duration. So in that case, we would have the start time that you would select. So for example, it would be 1 p.m. that you would select, and then you would have another option called duration. So how long is this event or this activity going to take? So you might have another option in here that said duration. This all depends on context though. So if I were to have duration, that duration would navigate to this, same height, same everything, same capabilities with the clear. So here we have, I guess I've already shown it filled in. It would default to even on the hour, and this one wouldn't be filled in. So you'd have 0 hours, 0 minutes, 00 minutes by default until you hit something in here. So in this case, I have 2 hours, 15 minutes selected, and then I would have to hit done to return to apply that choice. One thing to be very conscious of is using the S's. 2 hours, 15 minutes. If it's 1, you don't want to have 1 hours, you want to have 1 hour. And if it's, I guess it would always be minutes here. It'd be 0 minutes, 5 minutes. So just want to make sure that we have the correct wording in there. So same exact push navigations, pushing in, pushing out from left to right. We are not changing the sheet as a whole. It is just the contents within the sheet. So this navigation here, this content up here, the done pretty much stays there for the most part. The only time it would change is back, but it's still in the same exact location. It's the same exact size of button. It's just a line instead of a fill. So we're pushing in from left to right, right to left, the contents of the sheet, not, repeat, not the sheet itself. The last thing in this is the reminder. This is a setting of an alert. Very, very similar to what we've already covered. The only thing that is added to this is location, the ability to add a location to that reminder. So we could set a reminder for a specific date, a specific time, and a pattern that we want this to follow, like, for example, every 3 months. But we also have the capability to do geolocation, so setting the location that is geo-fenced around, let's say, my house, my work, when I go to a specific store, to remind me of an activity. And this set a reminder would be tied to like a list or an item or an event, some type of object. So this follows very much the same pattern. I'll start with repeat. So this would repeat on a basis of, and this is the default setup. So when I first come to it, day would be selected, and again, I'd have the choice of between 1 and 30 days, whether it be week, month, year. This content would change. I think probably, I mean, anything over 30 weeks, I don't believe you would need to have more than 30. You would probably choose months instead of weeks. So you might be able to just get away with the same exact setup here. So what I'm talking about is the fact if I have days selected, so I get this context. If I have weeks selected, I think I can still continue to have this same exact content. So I can select 1 to 30 weeks, 1 to 30 months, 1 to 30 years. That should cover 99.99% of any needs, I would think. And make sure you have the S's right here. So if it's a 1, every 1 day, every 2 days, every 5 days, every 1 week, every 2 weeks, every month, every 2 months. So make sure you get the S's right here in the copy. And again, done pushes back the content and updates the information in the list. Location. So location navigates you to the SetGeo. I'm not sure if that's part of this workflow, but I'll do it anyway. One last thing here is once I'm completed, once I have everything set to where I want, and I am not required to set everything. I can just set the date. I can just set the time. It doesn't matter what the content is. I should be able to hit done, and that information gets saved. So that would then give me a toast notification saying that I've set that date successfully or set that reminder successfully. Moving on to SetGeo, that green down here, that's SetGeo, that is this right over here to the right. This is the same exact height as those other screens, so this would also be a push. And what this is a list of my personal locations. Actually, at this point, it's not. It's all of these, so it's all my favorites, people, ties, events, personal history. So read through this. I'll go into some detail here, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Favorites are things that I would have favorited once I was in that location. So some of those are over here. So favorites, if I favorited a store that I went into, a place I went to eat, a place I stayed, vacation rental by owner, just like Airbnb. That would be a place that I had favorited. My wife, I favorited her. So it's just basically a way for me as a user to give a shorter list of my more frequently used places. And there are 2 different ways that we can go about this. So it kind of depends on context, but in most cases, I think we will probably use the multi-select. So the way that we determine multi-select from single select, Multi-select has a radio button where I can select multiple checkboxes, and single select will have just a single checkbox in each one of the fields. If I were to click, if this one was active and I click down here, it would move down here. But I think it's more common that we would have multiple locations. So here I have selected my favorites. Here I've selected people, so it's just those people that I have favorited as well as connected with. So I'm not allowed to favorite somebody if I'm not connected to them, I guess I'll say. Ties, these are different places that I have loyalty to. Just a store, this is kind of the view of a store if it doesn't have any cover image, if it doesn't have the branding in there like Home Depot does here or Bed Bath & Beyond. Here's a generic place. If a place hasn't given a cover photo, same thing with like a vacation rental, a place that you can stay. If it doesn't have a cover photo, we would kind of substitute an iconic image of that. Most should have a cover photo, and I think we'll work hard to make sure that they all do, because it makes it a lot better experience that way. This fourth one here is, you can't really see it, it's cut off here a little bit, but it is the experiences, or I'm sorry, the events. So those are locations pulled from my list or events that are being put on my brand stores, influencers that I'm tied to or follow. So for example, LaserX, that is tied to a list. Caden's birthday, we're having the event at LaserX, so it is tied there. And like these, so you got two different ways. You have the name of the place, the location name, I guess I'm showing you here, and then the second part is the list name, and that's not as popular, or it's faded to the background a little bit, and then you got the address underneath of it. So these will all be location based for the most part when it comes to events. The last one here is my personal, it's right here, my personal locations. The locations that I've added to my personal places: home, office, cabin, parents' house, commonly used for deliveries and things. So this would be something that I would need to add. We haven't decided yet, either from the account area or another area where we have different places that we can add. But it would be that list of my personal places, and I can select those. It has the address and the name I've given to it, and either the cover image or a smart icon to identify what it is: a house, a cabin, a home, an office with an office chair, things like that. So as soon as I made my selection, I hit done, and it will take the items that I have checked off and apply those. Read through the content here. I've shown if there's no places, if the list is empty, we give them the capability to create a place. That would be the fact of creating your own personal places and finding a place. So these other things are places. If we didn't have any places added yet, like if we didn't tie ourselves to a store, or we didn't have any data to display at all when it came to these areas, this is the default appearance for that, and the ability to go and create a place. Those things have not been created yet, so that's to be determined yet, but wanted to kind of cover it because it is in this SetAlert, and it is all geolocation based, so wanted to put that in there. One last thing, I noticed that this story also had privacy in there. I'm not sure why it has privacy along with alerts, but this is just basically the menu for privacy. It's just straight up a menu. You make your different choices here. You can only select one of these, and the one that is selected has a checkbox next to it. This top one is not active yet, and we'll have an apply button because we want to kind of have a gated capability with broadcast to kind of control the quality of that to a certain extent. And this is what influencers would possibly do to create a channel, a voice to the public. So confidential, that means Oh, I got some misspelling here. That means no copying or sharing by others. So this is confidential just to me. Nobody can copy or share it. Private means it's visible only to those that I share it with. I do not believe they cannot copy or share that. Public means it's mine. Anyone in my network can see it, and they can share and copy it openly. Broadcast would be the most broad of that, and absolutely everybody in the whole entire Blue Cube community, and probably even outside of the Blue Cube community to draw people in, would be able to see this. This is where I could have my top 10 camping equipment list that I create, or the best places to go in Cancun. So I could write a blog post, I could shoot a video, I could do lots of different things to broadcast my choices to the world in broadcast. That is the alert, set date and alert.